So what is it you like about this Indiana Jones?
I don't know. I don't know if I like it.
You don't know if you like it.
I don't know if I like it.
Okay.
I think I will like. Oh, actually, I think I will like it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I just played the very beginning.
And it's beginning of Raiders.
Yes, and it reminds me it's very Far Cry-y.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know how that's going to translate.
Maybe I should give it a test run on your PlayStation first
to see if you even.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact that it is. I mean, I still don't care. I don't like the fact that it's first person mainly only. Personally,
you can't switch into third person?
No, I know that it does depending on certain like puzzles and stuff.
Okay. Ooh,
but
puzzles. I like puzzles.
I played Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb on the original Xbox.
The Emperor's New Groove, yeah.
And that was third person, and I think the decision to make it, but it's very combat heavy, and that's why I was like Far Cry is weird because Far Cry is very gun. First-person shooter.
I've only played probably about 45 minutes of a Far Cry game, so.
I mean, I know everyone thinks it's crazy, but I think Far Cry 4 is where it's at. I like that one.
I know David really likes one of them. I think it might be 3, though.
3, I think, is the one that people like the most.
Yeah.
4 was received really poorly, but I had a really good time in that.
And 5 is the most recent one?
Yeah, with SPD.
Giancarlo Esposito?
Yeah. He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It looks cool. I mean, them doing the whole you play through the intro of.
And you're playing through all 5 movies?
No, it's a little standalone between the first after the events of the first movie.
Okay, so
it's like a whole nother. It's a whole nother movie basically.
Okay, so it's between storyline wise between Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Lost Crusade.
And the Last Crusade, yes.
Yeah. Because Temple of Doom is technically a prequel.
Yeah, which is
a lot of people don't know that. Actually,
yeah, I can't really wrap my head around that either.
I know it's weird. It's,
but that's why I didn't say it's in between the first and second one.
Yeah, because it's
But but it's that it lands after the Ark of the Covenant was found.
Yeah, but before they find the Holy Grail.
Yes, is my understanding.
You chose poorly.
That's my understanding of it.
Okay,
but.
Well, let's get into this.
Okay, this is Tommy.
This is Jacob.
This is Tommy and Jacob's mixtape.
Welcome back. I wanted to do that weird peek just for a moment. We got our audio stuff updated. Yay.
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 We went to Guitar Center.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It was fun.
So if audio feels a little off in this episode, I apologize. I might be changing levels in the middle of it, and I'm not going to take the time to go in and manually adjust that if I have to do things. But I hope if last week's episode was okay to listen to, I think I did a pretty good job of cleaning it up. So thank you for bearing with us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well,
what is this about? What do we do here, Tommy?
Well, welcome back. Or welcome for your first time. This is TJ's Mixtape. I'm Tommy. That's Jacob. We are a movie review podcast. We're longtime friends, and we like movies, and we like to talk about them. So that's what we do here. We talk about who made them, who's in them, some themes of it, kind of go over it, and at the end, we give it a rating. The rating is arbitrary. It's just what we feel. So if you don't like it, well, too bad. And
I've never seen a movie before. No.
But
we like to play a game.
Yes. At the end of every episode, we pick 2 actors and find what films connect the 2. And then the following episode, come up with, announce what we came up with.
Yeah.
And then at the end of this episode, we'll pick 2 more random people from Connect the Stars website. And yeah.
And we go from there. Yeah. Last week, we had the connection for Meryl Streep to Bill Murray, which Tommy found.
They're in a movie together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not visually in a movie together.
Well, you do yours, and then,
Okay. I, not knowing of that one, I found it's actually a pretty quick connection, really. Meryl Streep in Don't Look Up with Jonah Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Jonah Hill in Superbad with Emma Stone. Mm-hmm. Emma Stone in Zombieland with Bill Murray.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, and then mine was they're both in Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah. Which
Bill Murray plays the Badger, and Meryl Streep plays Mrs. Fox, which I just forgot that everybody and their mother's in that movie.
I mean, that's one of those movies where you kind of you unless you know the entire voice cast, because it's everyone and their mother, like you said. It's
everyone that Wes Anderson has ever worked with ever is in that movie.
Well,
it feels like.
I think that's the only time he's ever worked with Meryl Streep.
Well, yeah. What started me thinking about Wes Anderson was
Bill
Life
Murray.
Aquatic.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Life Aquatic is filled with people, so there has to be something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Fantastic Mr. Fox came up, and I went, I wonder if she's in that. And then sure enough, I was like, oh, shit, she's in that.
Yep.
Maybe I like subconsciously knew.
Possibly, yeah.
I was like,
I could see that.
You know, like
it's one of those things
her
like
voice.
when you see the trailer for like a Wes Anderson movie and you just see name. Like, so it's just everybody's in it.
Yeah, Wes Anderson was like the MCU before the MCU. Everybody was in a Wes Anderson.
I feel like that was Christopher Nolan was big with that too.
Oh yeah, like his big just ensemble casts.
Yeah.
He had a lot of people.
I guess that really started though with The Dark Knight.
What do you mean?
Like his first big ensemble cast was like The Dark Knight.
Not Inception?
No, The Dark Knight was before Inception.
Was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know how I feel about going. I have my thoughts. I'm not going to get into it. Anyways.
Yeah. Today
we are going to be reviewing a movie. As per usual, we are on episode 241, and we wanted to do... What did we want to do?
We discussed trying to do more female-led stuff, but it kind of turned into a... we're going to do the Lone Wolf and Cub trope.
Yes.
Just two of those movies.
Yeah.
It's very much inspiration and very fitting for this one because of The Last of Us season 2 that's airing right now. Even though this season kind of curts off from the Lone Wolf and Cub trope. And if you're not familiar with the Lone Wolf and Cub, it is a 1970s Japanese manga that was turned into a television show and also had some TV and also some movies made of it. It's the trope of like a
they talk about it in Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, what is it, a hawk and chick?
Yeah.
And it's a barber and his daughter.
Yeah,
But it's a man protecting child on dangerous journey is kind of like the trope of it. And I recently found out actually of it being a manga from the 70s and that this manga like created the trope. Like it's like documented or recognized as like the first telling of this trope. So I kind of want to read it actually. And they actually, I think it was in the mid or early 2000s, Dark Horse did a re-release of the entire manga series for English translation.
Yeah. So we're doing
Lone Wolf Cub, beginning with
with 2018's Prospect, which I had no idea about anything about nothing.
No, Dad didn't know it existed.
We just stumbled upon it and we're like, oh, this sounds cool.
And it's a Seattle movie.
Yeah.
It's Seattle.
Yeah,
artists.
it's a local, which is cool.
Yeah,
that was really
I was
cool.
like really surprised. I was like, oh shit, okay.
But for those that don't know, very possibly, since we had no idea either, what Prospect is, a young woman stranded on a hostile alien world makes an unlikely alliance to make her way home.
Yes. Actually, I think I remember kind of seeing casting calls for this now that I think back, in for this. Yeah, actually, I think I do. But yeah, this came out March 10th, 2018 in South by Southwest Film Festival. Then it was at SIFF and it was at a couple other film festivals. Finally had a very, very limited theatrical release November 2nd in 2018.
Yes.
I mean, it made like 22,000.
Yes.
But in whatever limited release it had. And it had it was like just around a $4 million budget. Mm-hmm. Super, super small budget. Super, super indie film.
It's kind of like one of the first indie films we've done in a while.
Like I would say indie like this. Yeah. Like really, it feels indie, but feels like well done.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty impressive with the $4 million budget, the world they were able to make.
Oh yeah. Real quick for 2018, how many movies did
35?
I counted 27.
I think that we need to kind of bookmark 2018.
Why?
Because there's some...
We've done a handful of things from it.
No, we haven't. I think there's a good things in there from looking at the list that we have discussed enough that I'm like, I think that'd be worth... I think, I say it every now and then, but I think 2018 was a pretty good year.
Well, I was talking about 2006 being kind of an untapped year for us as well. Yeah.
And I was just sitting there and I was like, there's a lot of movies on here that I was really interested in that I didn't get around to.
What we really need to do is go through our list of movies and see if there's a year that we've somehow missed.
I mean,
before, after like 1995.
Okay, that's a stipulation.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I could with my bookmarks. I put the date. I could just put 1991, 1992, 1990,
exactly.
and just see which one doesn't have anything on there.
See if one doesn't come up.
Yeah, and then we can just mark that down. Anyways, but so yes, this movie, like we were saying, is a local one. And who directed and wrote it?
So it was written and directed by a duo, Christopher Caldwell and Zeek Earl, both Seattle artists. They met at Seattle Pacific University. They started a film company here in Seattle called Shep Films, where they've done more like commercials and industrial stuff, it looks like. They did a Seahawks commercial, I saw. This movie is their only full-length feature. And it started out as a short that was written by Christopher Caldwell.
Yeah, in 2014. Mm-hmm. And then they took this and they ran to some studios and then were able to secure a $4 million budget.
Yep, and they shopped it. And then while that was all happening and still getting the works, they had their... like sets and everything were being built and whatnot, so they just had this like gallery pretty much of this like space age stuff, art gallery type thing. And they also like to have they've also done like art installation, like filming stuff as well. I've tried to find more about them and Shep Films, and Shep Films has their website. It looks more just kind of like a contact us for booking type thing, as opposed to, and it shows like the other stuff that they've done. But yeah, and yeah, this was filmed in like the Olympic National Forest.
Yeah, that's what I thought I read.
I think I read something around Olympia.
Yeah, I think it's the Olympic. Yeah, it was the Olympic National Forest. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I just find it pretty cool and impressive. Young Seattle artists being able to like create this film that actually became like an official selection at a lot of film festivals.
Have you ever been to the Olympic National Park?
I haven't. I've never been to Olympia.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
I would imagine so.
It's really pretty. Mm-hmm. It was cool, like how.
So growing up here in the Pacific Northwest, I definitely take for granted sometimes
the environment in which you're in.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to do, especially us being city rats.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought it was cool, the fact that I've been there a couple times, and now, especially with my mom being around, we go to all the parks and stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact that I was like, wow, with just some floaty stuff and kind of a camera filter, you can really make this look like an alien world, really pretty easily. Actually, watching this, you're like, it's so simple and straightforward, but all they did was it's kind of got this yellow filter to it to kind of give it this toxicity kind of look,
or like whatever sun.
Like it's a really subtle little change. Just change the lighting a bit and get some shit floating around in the air.
Get a color filter on there. Yeah, exactly.
And done. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was really interesting.
All right, well, let's get into who's starring in this then.
So yes, so I did want to also kind of off the bat talk about this is very Western, very Western. So it is very dialogue heavy, and I will say it's a little formulaic in the sense of a Western. You can kind of tell what's going to happen. So the cast is very small in the sense of who is important to the story narrative. So our two leads are Sophie Thatcher and Pedro Pascal.
Yes.
Sophie Thatcher, you might recognize from most recently Yellow Jackets. She is young Natalie, thank you. She's young Natalie. She was recently in Heretic, which we watched and we really liked.
Heretic's amazing.
Heretic was great. Hugh Grant, man.
Yeah.
She's
really good in it too.
Yeah, no, she's great in it. But my thing was Hugh Grant because I just am so used to him a certain type of way.
Yeah.
And him in that and Heretic and Dungeons and Dragons.
His villain renaissance.
He's in this villain phase. And I'm like, yeah, you get it, dude. Like, because you're creepy and weird and good at it. But yeah, so she was recently in Heretic and that was great. So if you haven't seen it, you've been curious, highly recommend it. It's on HBO.
Also in Book of Boba Fett as one of
I don't remember her in that.
She's one of the
Street Kids?
Street Kids, yeah. The one that had the enhanced arm.
I figured. Oh, yeah, for them.
Now you remember her?
The Star Wars Power Rangers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Get the Star Wars Rangers.
they're like shooting and the kid like does the unnecessary twirl and like spin twirl thing. Yeah. Okay.
It's like, yeah.
And they're
cool guy.
And they're bikes that go like 10 miles an hour. Like,
yeah. But Sophie Thatcher, she's on the up and up. This is her first feature film.
And it's cool to see. So yeah, this is her first feature film, and you can see it in the sense of you're like, okay,
she does a great job carrying this film because it is like kind of like her journey more than anything. It was really interesting to kind of see, since we've seen her very recently in like a bunch of like things back to back, little actor tics that she has with her mouth, you know, and the way that she just kind of laughs or like scoffs at something. I'm like, that's you. That's you. That's you showing something.
Well, I like when we get to have those, hey, you're gonna go far, kid, you know, kind of moments. Because you're like, I see, because she's a little rough in this because, you know, she only
so probably filmed this maybe 2017.
Yeah.
So what, 8 years ago? So she was probably 16 and 18.
Well, yeah, and that's not a criticism.
Yeah.
It's more just an observation. But
yeah.
It's still, you can see that the talent is there.
Well, and that's for how young she is in this movie and how good she's doing is, you know.
Yeah. And then I think that her playing off Pedro Pascal is great. But also, I mean, Pedro Pascal is, as most people know, a goddamn gem of a human being.
Yeah. And he is amazing in this.
Oh, God.
Pedro Pascal, if you don't know, The Last of Us.
Yes.
Right now. He's also
The
Mandalorian.
I just put that together.
Right. He got his big break in Game of Thrones in 2014 as Oberyn. Had been acting for like 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, he has like 75 credits and a lot of
just a lot of small stuff.
He's like a Morgan Freeman, like very later.
Yeah.
Kind of hit it off. And he's great in this. He's such a space Doc Holliday.
Yeah. The way that he is talking to you.
Yeah, he's got
a little bit of that Western drawl.
But the thing is, it's cool because he just does that really well. But for the context of this movie,
makes
you're like,
zero sense.
Why?
Yeah. Because that's the character.
Yeah, but I was just kind of like, okay, like, because that's such a specific thing. Like I was telling you when we were watching it, that's such a that Doc thing is such a specific thing, and there's an actual reasoning behind why was that Western cowboy outlaw guy.
Yeah.
There was a very specific reason why they were existing. And so to take that guy, go and put him in space, especially in a world that we're building that they really don't explain. There's a lot of conversation where they just don't explain anything. They're talking about places and times, and you as the audience are just supposed to kind of go, eat the carrot. Okay. It doesn't matter.
This is a foreign world, a foreign time.
We don't know what time period. We don't even necessarily know if these are Earthlings.
True.
These could be other humanoids. These could be alien stuff.
She was born on Crimea, so.
Yeah. So we don't really know anything. So it's like to have all this kind of loosey-goosiness and then this very specific accent and way of speaking that he's doing. I was kind of like, okay, like,
but it did. Yeah, you hear that and you make that, but also it didn't distract you from the performance or the movie.
No, because also you live with it you're with him long enough that you do kind of just let it go.
Yeah.
But the initial thing, I was like, that's cool, but why is he talking like that?
I was like, hello, governor, how are you? You're
exactly.
Like, why are you British?
There you go. Exactly. That's perfect. That's exactly the same thing with like Star Wars. Why is everyone in the Imperial?
Every villain fucking British or like any Disney movie is like,
does England exist in this world? Like what? I mean, this is the Pete Holmes joke where he talks about how fantasy stuff really takes him out of, Game of Thrones or whatever because of the fact that they all have English accents.
Yeah.
And it's this fantasy world. There is no England, and it just really takes him out of it. And I was like, he's like, well, I guess it just sounds better than like a New Yorker accent. I'm like, fucking dragons, you know. Anyways.
Hey, I'm walking here. Get the dragon out of the way. What are you doing?
He's like, that doesn't really work, but the English accent just works better, but it's kind of weird.
Because it's distinguished.
Yeah. It's
Anywho. And then we have our father, Sophie Thatcher, C, the father of the story, played by Duplass, who is much more of a producer, writer, director, has done a lot of stuff with his brother, Mark Duplass. They both have done movies like Cyrus and Jeff Who Lives at Home, which are very awkward indie comedies.
When did Jeff Who Lives at Home come out?
2013, 2012.
I just want to see it real quick because that sounds really familiar.
It's Ed Helms and Jason Segel.
Right.
Yeah, they're brothers.
Yeah.
And Jeff Lives at Home. And then Cyrus is Jonah Hill, John C. Reilly, and Marissa Tomei.
Jeff Who Lives at Home, yeah. I don't know. I get this confused with Lars and the Real Girl. For some reason. Similar aesthetic, right? Not plot, obviously, but...
No. Because Lars and the Real Girl, I mean, I guess in a sense of disillusionment, but it's also a very different idea of disillusionment.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Scores?
Really quick, I just wanted to do a quick shout out. Seattle actor also in this. His face is covered in it, but Chris Morrison, who I went to Cornish with, was in this movie as well. And I saw him on IMDb and was like, I know that guy. we almost worked together a couple times. He's a great actor, actually. Great, a lot more theater stuff is Seattle theater and whatnot. But anyway, ready for reviews and scores and stuff?
Yeah.
So this on IMDb has a 6.3, which I felt a little fitting, a little low, kind of. I don't know.
Familiar.
That was a really weird. You might have met him, honestly.
Yeah, he looks really familiar.
I mean, he's really short. He's like 5'5".
Yeah, there's this headshot of his right here. I'm like, I think I might have met him actually.
It's very possible.
Passing.
I mean, when you were hanging around, he was going to school there. And then Rotten Tomatoes has got an 89% tomato meter and a 74% popcorn meter. And I think, before you get into your reviews, I think a big thing about the reviews is since it had such a limited release and it's really not very well known, that a lot of it is probably just going to be like positive because of it's I don't know, good. But then like the 6.3 on IMDb was I was like, that's kind of interesting.
I mean, I have a theory about that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You want to share that before you read your reviews?
I think that the audience for this movie is very, very specific. And I think
film festival crowd?
Yeah. Or just a fan of sci-fis, westerns, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I think it takes a very particular, not saying in a good or bad way, I just think that it takes a very particular person to sit there and actually really like a traditional western.
Fair.
Because of the fact, there's this whole idea of like cowboys, Wild West, pew, 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 pew. And that's like Tombstone, right? Mm-hmm. Tombstone is a very Hollywood western.
Yeah.
More traditional westerns aren't really like that.
Yeah.
Like Quentin Tarantino makes there's a lot of Western DNA in his stuff because of the fact there's so much they're so dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
Like The Hateful Eight. God damn,
So good.
310 to Yuma remake and stuff like that. And I just think that if you're not really into the Western or the quiet sci-fi, this is going to be boring as shit to you.
I guess so, yeah.
It's pretty boring objectively, but it's also very interesting if you're into that thing because of the fact of the dialogue heavy. The environment is, the whole New York City is a character.
Yeah.
That's also a thing.
This planet is a character.
The hostile environment, the desert that you're stuck in that you need to figure out how to live through is also is one of the main antagonists. And that's why I think
it's a very modernist thing because it's like almost man versus element.
Yes. And I think that the limited release is perfect for this because then the people that will enjoy it and actually see for what it is are the ones that are going to be consuming it, as opposed to people being like, oh, like kind of what we did. Oh, Pedro Pascal, let's watch it. And it's like, well, this is not Last of Us. This is not Game of Thrones. This is not
Oh, especially his character in this.
Yeah, and the fact that he was kind of our villain for a second and then became our reluctant hero, I was very surprised by, because I just assumed that he was Daddy-O. And
I wouldn't even consider a reluctant hero. It was just kind of a redemption, and it was more of like a.
I think you're splitting hairs.
I don't know. When we get into it,
Yeah.
Let's get into reviews.
But yeah, so I think that makes sense, because even this on Metacritic, where I was going, has a 68, which comes to generally favorable, with 6 positive, 2 mixed, and 0 negative.
Yeah, I feel like if 0 negative makes sense for this.
So at the tippy top with an 89 by Matthew Managi at Austin Chronicle. Clever, dynamic, and full of little touches of world building that will drive science fiction fans wild. Prospect is destined to land on every list of underrated genre films for years to come, long after it has ceased being any semblance of underrated. Stay one step ahead of the curve and see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it. This is going to be very short because of the fact. With a 60, Keith Ulrich at The Hollywood Reporter. Pascal and Thatcher are an outwardly compelling team, though they're playing constructs instead of characters, hollow vehicles racing through this ragged future as opposed to convincingly long-term inhabitants of it.
What speaks to you about that review?
The hollow vehicles.
The hollow vehicles? In what way? What do you mean by that? Or what do you feel like them as characters are hollow vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, because of the fact... Let's see. The one that first came to mind was Pascal. Okay, yeah. So
because they're a trope of a character.
Because Pascal is Han Solo.
Yeah.
Thatcher is Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott.
Yeah,
Ripley.
She's like OG.
Ellen Ripley, right?
Yeah, Ellen.
Yeah.
Ellen Ripley, like OG, like the first alien.
Yeah.
Not. She's kind of getting. She has that she has the potential hidden in her, but she needs trauma to awaken it, basically, or to fully realize it. And that's what
that makes Alien so much different.
What?
If the xenomorph is just a representation of trauma to make her a stronger person.
Well, but then it's like, it does make her, well, I don't know if this, I don't know, because in Aliens, she's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
She's got some serious...
We're not dissecting Alien right now.
No, but I just, because of the sci-fi thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is, and I think that that's why it does feel a little hollow. And I don't, even though this is a mixed review, I don't think that the container it is necessarily a bad thing for these characters to be hollow because of what we're doing in the movie. Because at the end of the day, in this movie, we're not really trying to get to know these people in a very deep level, because of the fact that it's a survivalist movie. Is inherently, we as human animals, and we want to survive, so that's the struggle.
Well, and it's interesting is like with that, as you say that, like hollow vehicles, one of the notes that I wrote was it's tropey but not cliche, and I'm like wondering, that's kind of, you see what I'm saying with that?
I think that's what I just said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that we're both having that same thought of like, yes, it is tropey, but it
doesn't distract from the story that you are becoming invested in.
Yeah, it's trope. I like that. It's tropey but not cliche, in the sense that something will happen that you kind of see coming, but you don't roll your eyes like, here we go. It's still like, oh, okay. Like, oh, it's kind of more, oh, I think this is going to happen. Oh, that happened.
It's like,
not
it's like when someone's doing like a modern adaptation of Shakespeare, it's like you know what's about to happen, but
how are we going to make it happen?
Yeah. Retelling the Odyssey, retelling King Henry IV, retelling Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. And it's just like,
this is retelling Lone Wolf and Cub. This kind of falls into the Lone Wolf and Cub by default because of what happens. But anywho, do you have any more? No more reviews? Okay.
Because they all kind of fill in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing. So, like, just to get the plot line out really, really quick. You have the father and daughter who go to this planet and they're trying to mine pretty much like pearls out of roots.
Acidic land oysters.
Yeah, acidic land oysters, pretty much. Yeah. And it's like they need the money. They're desperate for the money, and it's supposed to be like a really big score for them to finally be able to live comfortably somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, mother's passed away, and the dad has some type of traumatic issue that he's dealing with or whatever. With I don't know. He's weird. I can't tell if he's a drug addict.
Yeah.
But it's like, what exactly is the drug? Is this like someone who's like addicted, just like taking smoking pot before bed, or like chugging a bunch of beers, or is an alcoholic problem?
Or like what is the level?
Is this a heroin problem?
I see. Like what is the level of?
We just
severity?
know that it's a substance abuse problem. Yeah, actually, right there, it's a substance abuse problem.
Yeah.
So, which is problematic itself in its own right. And so they crash land on this planet, and then while they're separated, Pedro Pascal and whoever, and partner that we don't see, I guess we kind of get it.
He kind of implied that he wasn't human.
Yeah.
Like he was some kind of robot or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Which I really...
The big guy over there.
Number 2.
Yeah.
I don't... I kind of have a love-hate with that because it's hypocritical of me.
Why? What do you mean?
Because of like the thing that going back to Nolan, like the Nolan thing of not explaining your goddamn movie really upsets me. But for this, it worked because I think they did it enough.
He was a muscle man, and that's all we needed to know. And then his character was gone, so it didn't
no. But
matter.
I mean, that's why I think it happens so much.
Yeah.
That it becomes a world building technique as opposed to Nolan's like the ending.
Yeah. It was. They gave us the right amount of information for the character to experience what that character was going to be.
Well, yeah, and it's like it's kind of the Tarantino thing, I saw an interview where he was talking about the rope burn on Brad Pitt's neck in Inglourious Bastards, and the fact of very consciously not bringing up that, because then if 3 people watch the movie and 3 people have different ideas of how he got that, they have now watched 3 different movies, and it causes a whole different like interaction with the audience, and I thought that was very interesting, and that's kind of doing this, which I like.
Fair, yeah. So Pedro Pascal, what's his character's name? Ezra. Ezra and dude, they find the father, and I think his name is Damon. Yeah, Damon. While C and Damon are separate, and they're gonna rob him. It's like Raiders. This is like now we're in the fucking West right here. No,
we're in the gold rush.
Yeah, gold rush era. Yeah, idea. Yeah, Prospect. Haha. Tommy had to point that out to me.
Yeah, you were like, it's a Western. And I was like,
yeah, it's called Prospect.
It's called Prospect.
I was like,
I figured.
I wasn't thinking like prospectors. I was like, prospect for something.
Yeah, it's double meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot about that direction. Like, yeah, you got it, bud.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
So then, during a standoff after C, trying to save her father and number 2, big guy, pretty much end up shooting each other. And then it's left with Pedro Pascal and Sophie Thatcher, C, and Ezra. She does shoot him in defense at some point, but then they're kind of stuck together to try to get off this planet.
Well, a big thing,
because there was also a crash landing on their pod, so he's been trying to get off this planet.
Well, there's also a big thing in the beginning when we meet C and her father that they are on basically a time limit. That's another element that I kind of feel like they could have leaned a little bit more into. But the fact that the shuttle to get them out of this solar system, this is the last one that's leaving. Yeah. And so even from the very get-go, the father and daughter are on a time limit to get down there, get the pearls.
They keep calling it the sling back, or?
Yeah, the sling back. Mm-hmm. And they have, to get this resource and get it back before the sling back leaves. So we already are on this kind of like, all right, go.
Time crunch.
When I say leaned into, it didn't really, it was like, I don't know. It felt like a pretty long time that we had to. Anyways, moving on.
What? Long time that they had.
I
on the
kept
planet?
forgetting about the time limit. I don't think they leaned into the time limit.
Like they didn't
the tension,
add the element of danger of the time. Well, because they ran out of time. They did run out of the time. They missed the sling back.
Yeah, but
there was always the
there
alternative of leaving with the miners.
Yeah.
So, but then it became like desperate. Like we have to leave with the miners.
Yeah.
Or we're fucked.
We live here now with these wild religious zealots.
Yeah, right. So yeah, and the reason why I guess like I was kind of like unsure about really saying the reluctant hero out of Ezra is I think what ends up happening is that he sees a reflection of maybe himself in C in a sense of everything. You've now lost everything. Just like I have nothing. We both have nothing. So we can look after each other.
Yeah, but that also goes into the trope thing that we were talking about. You're like, okay.
Yeah. It is. Because it is the trope of the Western of, what that, I mean, that's what it is, And Lone Wolf and Cub, I think, is actually, it's father and son. Like, they are actually, it's not random stranger with random stranger child.
Yeah, it was actually, while we were watching it, I was getting really the Road vibes.
Yeah, same. Mm-hmm.
Especially with the toxic environment.
And that's very much Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
This is definitely nicer of a movie.
Oh, well, I mean, the Road is just depressing.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, this is just kind of a... Comparatively, this is a feel-good.
Because this has a hope at the end of maybe being saved, while the Road is literally just waiting for death.
Yeah.
We reviewed the Road, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember, I read it.
Yeah.
I read it before we did.
That's right. That's
see the comparison. I haven't read a book that fast in a while.
It's a fucking intense book to read.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But in this movie,
it's just such an easy read, though.
I mean, yeah. What is it? Yeah. So I wrote down Ezra has compassion in a world that is cutthroat, which is kind of like the thing I think that draws him to see. Is he sees that
Joel in space.
Yeah, pretty much. It is really weird how much he isn't Joel but is Joel in this as well.
Well, because
it's the trope of the character.
Okay, I was like, because Joel's a trope.
Yeah, it's the trope of the character. But one of the things that bothered me was that I feel like Damon and C, the father-daughter relationship, wasn't extremely clear enough because there was tension. But I couldn't tell if it was tension because of like he felt like she had some reason for the mother dying, or if he was just being authoritative. Like if it was like literally just like a natural like father-daughter thing. He's authoritative because it's my daughter and she needs to learn how to survive in space type thing. Or if there was some sort of resentment. Like I
didn't get the resentment thing.
I felt like there was a little bit of resentment from her to him for the substance abuse, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant from him to her.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like from him to her, it was like the relationship. It was. I feel like there could have been more established of that.
Well, I think. So, like, actually, going back to the reviews real quick, Peter DeBruge wrote one for Variety, who gave it a mix of 60. And just the beginning is, constructing character does not appear to be Earl and Caldwell's strong suit.
Mm-hmm. But then I feel like the character growth...
Then it says, on the other hand, the duo show a real aptitude for world building.
Okay, the writers, yeah.
But the reason I was bringing that up, it's because of the fact like that, what you're just talking about, the aloofness that is the writing is very, to me, I don't know this, I just think is very intentional because they have done this interesting hybrid of, not hybrid, they have really put in the dialogue, the aloofness of the dialogue is its own world building technique. Mm-hmm. Because they're not spoon feeding us information, they want us to have this dialogue of what is the deal with her, with her and her dad's relationship.
But
they
then
want
it
us to be doing
also
that.
kind of becomes moot because of his death,
And that's kind of
and they had to force this relationship between these two strangers.
And I think that's where the weak sounds really aggressive, but the weak writing comes from is because we are doing these things, and I'm like, yeah, okay. You're leaving it up for us to kind of fill in our own gaps and kind of fill in our own personal things too. And that's always just really interesting when you start putting your own projections onto these characters from things you've experienced. You're like, okay, that's a good way to interact with your audience and everything. But a lot of these things just become like, what were we watching? Oh, like Sea of Trees.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're getting all this shit, and then we're not doing anything with it.
You know, I made a note. This feels like it should be a novel, actually.
It feels like it should have stayed a short film.
That too, yeah.
An hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It felt, and it does that thing of a lot of long, drawn out, walking in the woods things, and
Pedro Pascal just talking to fill air.
Yeah, it does feel like that. I think like
that the build of tension. And the ending is messy, in my opinion. How they're like leaving it. Then my biggest issue was that dude in the cage.
Yeah.
It was just like, and that's why I wonder if like maybe if this would have been better, like if like as a novel, or because it feels like a novel is when you get a clear in a novel when you're reading, you get a clear perspective from one person, and if it was all straight from C, her describing the strange man in the cage and you get this like she's unsure of what he is. Who he is.
So then we become unsure of... Well, yeah, because that man in the cage thing being brought to his execution, and then even the Ezra mentioning something about it, and the mercenaries like, I don't get paid to ask questions. Very transporter-y. And...
So I missed that, I think. Was there a bit of explanation?
Yeah, there was a dialogue about that. But
it was just so quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ezra was something like, so what's up with the fella in the cage? And then the leader mercenary mentions that they were paid to bring him here to execute him in the sense of just leaving him out in the toxic air to die.
I see.
And you're like, so even for the world that we're building, someone hired you, this particular group of mercenaries that's already coming here, but they want you to take him specifically to a prospecting toxic planet covered in red dust in a clear cage. What? And you're kind of like, oh,
He'll send him swimming with the fishies.
And it's, and it's just like, I know that we just said, a lot of this is very vague and it's very on purpose, but that's one of those moments where you're like, well, did we put that there because we couldn't figure out how to get him out of this situation?
Yeah.
So we needed this kind of...
Because him coming in, that character saves them in a way, allows them to escape.
Yeah.
But doesn't try to get on the ship with them. Is kind of like just decides to stay on that planet. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's like the movie ends up leaving a lot more questions. But
which is only weird because we were fine with the questions and mainly until like that moment.
Exactly.
And the last 10 minutes, you're like, the last 20 minutes?
Yeah, 20-ish minutes.
Minutes, you're like, oh, okay.
Because, and at the end of the day, that's kind of what this movie really turns into, is that it is that Western story of the two strangers trying to find a way to survive together.
Yeah, the middle ground they find is survival.
Yeah. And their growth as two characters together is the most important narrative of this movie. So, and I feel like that was a success.
Yes,
because
I would agree.
The whole thing, like when they meet the zealots and they're offering to buy C from him, and
I did kind of an eye roll at that.
It's just the tropiness of trying to buy the bride,
the religious cult thing. And
we're saying religious. We don't know if they were religious.
No, Ezra said they were religious.
Okay.
He like straight up called them like missionaries. Like this is their deal.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
They come to this planet there's something, that's a, what is it?
Fallout. I heard missionary and I was not thinking like a religious missionary.
Oh yeah. It's like, it's like the, I don't know, give me like Fallout vibes. What are the Sons of Adam? Kind of thing. There's something about the toxicity that they living through this is their challenge from God.
And it's like, our mother has passed away. We are looking for a new mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting is that the way that they wrote it is just to have C panic and run, which makes sense because she does not trust Ezra.
Yeah, she has no reason to.
Exactly. She has no reason to.
Like, really. I mean, even when she did that, though. Never mind. I don't know how to word it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then when she goes back and finds him, and
the best scene of the whole movie.
Well, and she confronts him, is like, were you going to sell me to those people?
Do you think he was telling the truth?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think. I'd like to think so.
Yeah, same. I think he knew I don't know. I think he felt that she was disposable, but he needed her to get to that angels, whatever it was,
the Queen's Hoard.
Queen's Hoard, yeah. Like the big gems, the big stones. He needed her to get there, and they're probably kind of put together that, okay, these people are going to be looking for a man and a young woman.
Yeah. So keep the facade going.
Yes. So I don't think he would have sold her.
Well, then, yeah, and then we get to that amazing cutting off scene.
Yeah.
The arm cutting off scene. Well, I don't know what, that was just, I thought that was just great. It's so funny how certain scenes will just like, everything will kind of just click in place for you. And you're like, this is cool.
Yeah, I love how Icon was like, how the hell is she staying so calm right now?
And then he's like, how the hell are you staying so calm right now?
And then she's like, well, I used to do shit like, and you're like, oh, it was actually a really powerful moment of like really seeing the strength that Seed has as a character.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's always impressive when one scene can speak volumes about both of them.
Yeah.
Because even like Ezra is getting maimed basically, and he has this whole, he has this really great monologue about, he's saying goodbye to his best friend and best weapon.
Yeah.
He's talking about
my
his
primary
arm.
weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like, that's an interesting
it's like
way to do this.
And as she's taking a piece of him off of him, there is then her like I don't know, in a sense, like becoming they're becoming
symbiotic.
Yeah.
Well, I think
the reliance on her is now a lot higher since he's lost.
Yeah, and it's this really great kind of what it is like it's a really interesting kind of like trauma bonding.
Yeah.
And she's really calm and collected and just is like, okay, I'm going to help you do this really intense thing. And she's calm and focused. She
hits the bone. He's like, ah!
Yeah.
You put her on the floor for the bone.
Yeah, it was a really cool way to do that. Because also in a Western sense, the whole chopping off the arm leg thing is very tropey. It happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it was a cool way to do that.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, the whole, quick, hold him down, bite on the dish, here's some whiskey. Like that whole thing. It's like they had that scene, but it was really quiet and collected. It wasn't this.
And Pedro Pascal's performance of it is fucking fantastic.
But it wasn't this loud, bloody, chaotic thing. It was just this very like, it was just, and then it was over.
It was kind of like sad, actually, more than anything.
Yeah, it was like, no, it was just, it's sad, but it wasn't like, at least, we were pretty desensitized to that kind of stuff, but it didn't like, it wasn't like, it was just sad, like, oh, that sucks.
It's an intense moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very quiet, intense moment that I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Do you have anything else? Really?
Well, what are we at?
Like barely 50.
Oh, that's fine. That's good. I mean, my thing is, as long as we get to 45 minutes, it's worth it. It's worth our time and energy to set all it up, pack it down.
As he sees rescue, sets them as two lost souls looking out for each other. Yeah. Ezra has compassion in a world that is cutthroat. Feels like a novel. Character growth is most interesting. Yeah. What did I say? The limiting settings. Yeah.
And I just think that, being in an independent film and like we said, the top here, the $4 million budget, they did a really incredible job. It really does feel like a world, and it does that thing. And I want to say this, but it has such, like I said, it has such like a love letter to like Alien.
It has a love letter to 70s sci-fi.
Yeah. And definitely, broader way to say this, 70s sci-fi.
Yeah, and the one thing I really liked was the costume,
the aesthetic,
and costume design of their suits.
Yeah,
like it felt like it could be, like you watch like a 60s sci-fi film and you're like, oh, they're trying really hard to look futuristic.
Yeah,
or
this was all very practical.
Yeah.
Except for until the mercenaries. The mercenaries were a little bit like, we're gonna dress up like bad guys, and you're like, okay, Fallout, calm down.
Yeah, they reminded me so much of Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I don't know. And even him, he's all like in the guy getting executed is wearing like gold skull thing, and like,
there's so much about that. I was like, okay, so is he like a different race? Is that why he's red? Is that red dust? Is that a necklace, a part of his like culture? Is that a thing of like Is that a muzzle because he's a maniac?
Is it a black spot?
Is this Hannibal? Is this,
or is it like a black spot? You know, like a pirate execution notice.
That man in the cage is probably the biggest problem of this entire fucking movie.
Hey, it's that rule, last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you remember. But I just think that they did a really great job. And they did little tweaks, like even the fact like they could, you know, we're on this toxic planet.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of dealing with like oxygen management, we dealt with filter management. They had filters to filter out the air that was breathable except for whatever the fuck was floating around in it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool because, again, it was like this trope of like we have this issue. But, you know, like think of, I don't know, Red Planet with Val Kilmer. A big fucking thing in that whole goddamn movie is air management.
Yeah.
And it does at this point, especially with sci-fi being the huge genre that it is. You're like, okay, I'm not really interested in the air management. And we have to share a tank and, you know, like that kind of thing. But this was, because even then it's like, yeah, I mean, the filter is not filtering great, but it's going to work well enough for you to breathe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
As opposed to just not having oxygen and passing out.
Yeah.
It changes. It has the same effect of the tension, but it changes the approach of said tension.
Yeah.
And little things like that I appreciate.
And one thing, I guess, like the complete end of this movie, the how they fail hardcore at mining.
Yeah.
These goddamn
Well, that's
things.
the Western bit too. That's very everything that can go wrong will, and then it turns into a fucking, you know, it's very
Turns into a
Western.
bloodbath.
The last 20 minutes turns into a bloodbath, which is how it goes.
And them surviving. And also, her coming back to save Ezra, too.
Yeah, him actually surviving that I thought was surprising.
And I think that just speaks volumes of, in a weird way, it's like she found the father figure she wanted.
That she needed.
Yeah. And he found maybe the thing to take care
Sarah.
of. Sarah. Ellie! Again, she would have been a great Ellie.
She would have been. She really would have been.
Yeah.
She really would have been.
And maybe, who knows, maybe it wasn't early and offered thing because maybe the Yellow Jackets, maybe conflicting schedules.
Yeah, maybe.
You know?
But she would have been.
Not to say that, I mean, I think Bella Ramsey's doing a great job as Ellie. I just don't know if they've written Ellie correctly now.
I've been saying it for a while. Yeah, I mean, and it's like, I didn't get to finish, but like that 70s thing, you know, they really, an Alien I think of because, you know, the Wayland core and just the little
world building.
The world building really reminded me of that, you know, at least in the sci-fi way. And I really appreciate that. I mean, and also Alien's one of my favorite franchises.
That's fair.
Sci-fi franchises.
There's one moment in this movie, kind of thinking back on like how their character growth together happens when he's asking her what she's writing and she's talking about this book that she
once read that she rewrote.
And she's now kind of like writing fan fiction for. And it's pretty much sounds like the adventures of babysitting.
Yeah.
You know? And he's actually taking an interest.
It was really sweet.
He was actually like, tell me about it. And
she's like,
and
you
then
must think I'm crazy or something. And he's like, he genuinely says like, no, I don't think that at all.
I think it's fine. He's kind of like,
well, and that's more,
it's fine for people to have, you know,
a hobby
type thing as opposed to father that.
Well, and that's more insight into her relationship with her dad.
Yeah.
You know,
how her dad was like, it's not useful. You don't waste your time on this. You need to be focusing on finding an occupation that, you know, is suitable for our living.
Yeah. Well, then that's really what it is too. It's like Pedro says, Ezra says something about that too, about how just like his number two, she was an expendable asset to him, is how Ezra sees it. You know,
how the father viewed the daughter.
Yeah,
yeah,
and what their relationship was is that she was more of a worker, you know, not a daughter.
Yeah,
and from that conversation, you kind of go, okay, I think Ezra was right.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's interesting because like regardless,
don't say that to her. You just killed her father.
It's interesting is that because like and that just kind of also goes to show the complexity of a character that is, you know, someone who is willing to like, you know, rob a person, you know, because it's like by the end of this we don't want Ezra to die really. We have actually kind of like grown for their relationship, their companionship, but I guess as an audience we kind of forget, it's like he was ready to kill her and kill her father for these jewels pretty much. Yeah,
but I mean but
that's what this world is as well. It's, you know,
well, and this is, you know, it's a different and it's a different situation in the sense of you're not just going down and going to work at the accounting firm. Like you
Yeah.
are going through space on this long journey to this hostile planet. To it's like your job is life and death.
You're going to a lawless area.
So someone tries to steal your
Yeah.
livelihood, you need to be ready to, if one, dish out justice on because no one else is going to come help you.
Yeah.
And two, understand the ramifications of if you try and steal someone's literal livelihood from them. So,
Yeah.
and that's what he says basically. And
Yeah.
you're like, he's not wrong.
He's like, yeah.
Like,
Anarchy!
because even then at that point too, it's like, let's say the dad, they didn't shoot the dad. What was the dad going to do? He's going to take all their jewels
Yeah.
or the resource.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe even take all of their air filter, in sense, maybe he wouldn't have shot them, but
he
his
was going to
action-
leave him to death.
He was going to leave him to die. So you're like,
Drop
well,
a can of oil. Let's see how long it takes for you to drink it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, yeah, you may not have pulled the trigger, but
Yeah.
you definitely didn't help.
All right. Where do you feel? What do you got?
Pretty high.
Oh, really?
I was 3.5.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say like a 4. I was like,
No,
Yeah.
I was thinking 4, but
I don't think it's not.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
that captivating.
I think the tropiness kind of knocks it.
Yeah, and it's just I watch a lot of sci-fi and a lot of sci-fi westerns and sci-fi westerns, and I think that I have seen more captivating ones that could deserve a higher.
Yeah. I was seeing more of a 3.
I can meet at a 3.
And I think a big thing of let's walk down to 3.5 for a second. Let's see, because you brought up a valid point of leaving specific things out of the script or like out of like the world building because of the unknownness. And it's like it's not really like the focus of the script is
It's not pertinent to anything.
Yeah. And the questions we had about the big red man
The big red man.
are poignant, but then it's like, again, as I was kind of talking about, like, this feels like a novel, and if this was a novel, and we're seeing it from C's perspective, and are not knowing what it is, not knowing anything about it, it makes sense for it to remain a mystery.
Know what it is? I kind of want to fine tune that, though, what I was saying about it being okay because of the fact that they're using it as a world building. They just didn't fine tune it. It's like if someone was writing a book, right, and in your story, and then suddenly by accident they keep changing from like the perspective of like omniscient to first. They just by chapter they're just kind of
Change from first person to third
person. If they're just let's say it's like a stream of consciousness.
That's
writing.
how I used to write. Actually,
It's like I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah.
But that's what it makes me think of. It's like if and if you're gonna do that, I think that's maybe why it goes down to a 3. If they had really nailed that, then a 3.5. But the fact that they didn't really nail this aloof world building thing to the point where there were things that some of it you could let go because you're like, okay, that's just the world. That's what we're going to do. But then it's like none of those really, we don't need to know where she's from.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because that's not the story. But you now put in Big Red Man who literally saves them. And you leave that aloof. You're kind of fighting that going, well,
It's a
need
Deus
more.
Ex Machina.
Yeah. Yeah.
That has,
But then we don't get to sit with it very long.
Yeah.
It's introduced and then it's used, and you're kind of like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because we also don't see how he's released.
And yeah, unless we missed it in that gunfight,
I still don't think
unless
there's
there's a shot.
Well,
like
what's crazy is that he's released, and I get if the whole thing was to leave him on the planet to like suffocate to death. You see him; he has a filtration mask on.
Yeah, but even then, it's like, oh, maybe they, since I thought of this just now, maybe they released him,
and then he fought back and got one.
Once
yeah, but then I don't know. Yeah, it's just weird.
Well, because of that, because the mercenaries are like, oh, okay, well, we got our diggers here. They're gonna do the digging, then we're gonna leave. So maybe they're like, okay, well, now release him and let him go do his thing. And then once the tide turns, he was like, okay, I'm gonna get you. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's just the messiness of the ending really drops it down to a 3. But it's also like them getting away is like a very, is a good ending as well.
Yeah, and
It's
a
just-
3 is a good rating. Like I think if anyone's been interested and they like sci-fi / westerns or both of a combo of both, I think this is really up your alley. Like I thought it was really good.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
You know?
No, I enjoyed it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't even start. We didn't even like it.
I was going to bring it up, but the way we were talking about it, you could kind of tell that we liked it.
Yeah, okay.
So I was like, it's not fair to
Yeah.
lose the momentum to bring that up when it's pretty obvious that we were a fan of it in
Yeah.
some way. But yeah, I think a 3.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that their interactions and everything were great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put down 3, 5, 3. So 3 out of 5 carrots.
Yay.
Yay.
Knock, knock.
Daytime.
I don't like them there. Knock, knock, knock.
So yeah,
Next week?
next week we're doing Furiosa.
No, we're not.
No,
No.
what are we doing?
We're doing True Grit.
Oh right, I forgot we changed the whole thing. I'm
Lone
sad
Wolf and
now.
Cub. We can do Furiosa afterwards.
Okay, I just really want you to watch Furiosa.
You also really want me to watch Westerns.
Yeah, Furiosa. Actually, Furiosa is kind of like Land Pirates.
Oh, fair.
When I had that epiphany when I watched it the first time, I was like, this is like Pirates of the Caribbean with like semi trucks.
Yeah.
It's fucking dope. Fucking love that movie. I also do like True Grit though. True Grit's really good.
I've never seen True Grit.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing True Grit.
Remake.
Yes, we're doing the remake.
Coen Brothers, right? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to continue with the Wolf Cub
Lone Wolf and Cub.
thing. And then after that, we're going to do Furiosa.
And then maybe we can do Waterworld after that.
Okay.
I don't know.
So yeah, that was episode 241 of Prospect. We gave that a 3 out of 5. So we really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook to see all of our promos over what's coming up the following weeks or any updates that we have. On all those are Linktree links where you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, so on and so forth. Please. Oh, the game.
Oh, yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Kristen Bell came up. Or do you want to?
Mary Elizabeth Winstead and who?
Kristen Bell. Do you want to do that, or do you want to redraw?
I feel like... No, they're not. I feel like they might be in a movie together, actually.
Should I just do a redraw?
Yeah, I feel like that one's going to be really quick to get together, actually.
Will Ferrell and Jude Law.
All right.
I think I already got one. I just got to check my work. Ferrell to Law. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment. If you can think of a connection between Will Ferrell and Jude Law, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
And I think that's everything, right?
I think so, too.
This is
yawning.
Tommy.
I'm sorry.
Okay. 1 and 2. This is Tommy.
This is Jake.
This is Tommy and Jacob's
Mixtape.
Bye.
Bye.